Well, welcome to all right. Well, welcome to the Katashi Book Club. Our community's been reading The Reluctant Shaman, and we're usually on Discord. It's usually Tuesdays, 5 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Mountain, but because we have a very special guest today, Cordell Whitaker, the author of The Reluctant Shaman and Sacred Link, and The Weavings, Dawn of a New World. And I'm going to read a little bit from the back because I think this is going to be our next book. Well, I'm pretty sure this is going to be our next book. So I'm going to just read just a little bit because it's kind of tantalizing. The Weavings, Dawn of a New World is based on traditions that have never been corrupted or altered. It represents the original teachings that the ancients shared with humanity. Through this, Kay offers us the opportunity to build and live by new, or rather very ancient ways of thinking and being human, allowing us to create a new humanity and a new world. So it's going to be great. I am going to let Kay get started because the hour goes by so fast, and hopefully we can have a little bit of questions and answers and a little bit of sharing afterwards. So if you're not talking, can you guys put yourself on mute? And that way we won't have any echoes or anything like that. Let's see, we're chapter 12, page 242, the Shaman's Cave. Thank you, Kay.
Okay, The Reluctant Shaman, Chapter 12, The Shaman's Cave, or Shaman's Cave, whichever tomato or tomato you prefer. Through the next couple of months, I practiced both finding the joy in everything that I could and perceiving visualing exercise that they had given me. I believe that helped me rapidly through the mourning period. I began to see and feel incredible beauty and peace in everything around me, which manifested in waves between moments of grief and loneliness. I was living in one of the most beautiful places in the world. My apartment was small, really small, but exceptionally nice. The redwood forest was on one side with cow pastures that rolled to the bay on the other side. There were racquetball courts across the street. And from my living room terrace, I could see across the entire bay. It was spring, and the fields and the forest were filled with wildflowers and insects. I walked everywhere I needed to, and it didn't take long for the moments of joy and exhilaration to outnumber the moments of sadness. It was becoming a truly happy time for me. Domano and Chia recommended that I take some exercise class and that taught about physical balance and energy flow, but it needed to be fun. I was not going to let it become something morbidly serious. So I signed up for Aikido and belly dancing classes. They were a great deal of fun. Both of them even had ancient mystical teachings, origins. And it was fascinating to learn bits and pieces of these concepts and traditions. I was surprised at how similar they were to what I had learned from the Hedekas. As the spring quarter neared its end, I saw less and less of my husband, and that felt fine. This was the first time in my life that I had ever been completely on my own. I was learning to live without him or any other adult, and I liked it. In early June, I met with the Hedekas on campus, and we walked through the fields in the sun. And I'd been to a lecture a few days before about primitive art. The professor had mentioned a belief among some Amazon tribes about shamans who have adopted an ability to travel great distances in moments without the aid of a vehicle, or, in other words, to teleport. I could hardly wait to ask the Hedekas about this. Does this surprise you? Damano asked. Well, that there are legends like that, I answered, but that the possibility might actually exist. I know that there's a lot of things that I can't explain, but something like this just seemed too fantastic. It's impossible. Damano smiled, gave a little chuckle. It is gate traveling. A gate in the web to another place. Are you serious? I was sure he was teasing me. Now, come on. You're teasing me, aren't you? I looked back and forth at both of them, expecting one of them to indicate the truth to me. They just both laughed. This is dreaming, Chia said, as though she were trying to make everything perfectly clear. You mean this is a dream, like right now? They laughed. No, 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 Damano said, catching his breath. Traveling through gates. This is a part of dreaming. I still didn't believe him. You're telling me that people actually disappear from one place and they reappear in another place far away all at once? Yes, they both said together. And they seemed very sincere. "Mm, this is for real," Damano said. Truly. This is one of the parts of dreaming, the most difficult one. Where does one go to? I asked. Oh, he clapped his hands. Wherever you want. But you have to know the place you go to really, really well. Know the songs and the feel of it. That is how you find it on the web and make a door there. I must have had that look on my face again. The one with my mouth hanging wide open. They both chuckled. Domano tried very hard to make me understand. A gate is when you change your attention. Very intense. It's a certain way, so it forces the web around you to become a door. You think extremely clearly of the place you want, And then the doors formed in that web, and out you step. See? You are serious. I looked at each of them again, back and forth. Do you do this? Yes, they both nodded. I didn't know what to think or believe. I was afraid to ask if they were going to be teaching this to me. What does it look like? Chia thought for a moment. You could see it hunting for words. It looks like the energy of a place collecting together, drawing in. Does it ever happen in nature? All by itself? Without humans making it? Sometimes, Damano answered, but not much. Sometimes a person can make it appear and not know it. This happens every once in a while to apprentices. They are shifting themselves and they aren't completely aware of what they are doing. They they don't have very much control. If it happens, it's a good idea not to go into it by yourself unless you know you have the place that you seek perfectly clear in your mind. What happens if you don't? I asked. You could end up mm, someplace else. He seemed unable to find the words that he wanted. What do you mean, else? Oh, he patted my arm. Gates can be made to anywhere on our world, other worlds. He looked me straight in the eye for a moment. There are many worlds besides this. We build our web and hold our attention in a way that keeps us from these other places. But they are there, just like the Windkeeper is there. We walked over to a little gully where the cows collected under the oak trees and sat on big boulders. There were dozens of different tiny flowers everywhere in the grass and among the rocks. Birds sang back and forth across the field, and there were butterflies, dragonflies, and many strange little bright colored insects that flew from plant to plant. A dragonfly landed on Damano's hand. Ha! See here, a visitor. He has come to listen to our talk. Maybe he has something to teach about gates, too. He surely is a friendly guy. He reminds me of my teacher. Look, Chia, doesn't his face remind you of our teacher? Chia leaned over to look closely at the bug. Yes, he sure does. Do you suppose that is him? We all laughed, but I wasn't really sure what I was laughing about. I wondered if they had some reason to suspect that their teacher could actually visit them in the form of a bug. But I decided I didn't want to know, and I said nothing. Domano, still holding the bug, said, I will never forget the time my teacher first pulled me through a gate. He had not told me very much about it before the gate appeared, and he yanked me through. I was not understanding what was happening. I sure was scared. All of a sudden, everything looked like it was moving. And then it wasn't the jungle place we were in. For the smallest moment, it was not anything. And then it moved itself into being a place high in the mountains. I yelled and jabbered at my teacher, and he said we were going somewhere, but he did not tell me how. I shook all over. Everything felt electric. And he said to me, Kla itla wanoa katasi. It is good, is what it means. You're learning well the balance of the world. I didn't feel so good, though. I was confused by his reference to the foreign language. Is that language yours or your teacher's? That is the language of the star people, a language our teachers spoke and taught some of it to us. You know some of the words already. Yes, I nodded. I always thought that that was your tribal language. No, he said, this is different. This is better suited, more accurate. She picked up an odd shaped rock. You don't need to worry about gate traveling just yet. It takes years of training to develop the art of dreaming. Today, we're going to show you how to do the first dreaming art, spirit journeying. This kind of dreaming is done while you are awake. She handed me the rock. It looked like a little cat. I studied it and then handed it back to her. This is like you said. Demano picked up the conversation. Going someplace and leaving your body behind. This is the shaman's way. This is the shaman's job to go places that are very hard to get to and to find knowledge and bring it back to their people. You can find things in dreaming that you cannot be found any other way. You can even learn more about dreaming. When you go on a spirit journey, you need to pay attention to every detail that you can perceive. Watching, listening, feeling, smelling, touching, paying attention to your own reactions. Everything is of crucial importance. Experience every moment to its fullest and keenest, expecting to remember. Let your senses bathe in all that is there. The more intense and thorough the experience, the more thorough the learning and remembering. Sit down on the dirt here and lean back on the rock. Get comfortable, but not so much that you fall asleep. Now breathe very full. Fill yourself completely with the life that is around you. Close your eyes and find your center. Stay sitting on the ground. It will be your spirit that moves. And you must feel this with all your senses. as if every muscle is moving. Do this as intensely as possible. Now, stay centered no matter what, and make your spirit rise and walk with me to the cows over there. That's good. Come, feel every step. Feel the weight of your body on the bottoms of your feet. Come closer. Reach out. Touch the cow. Feel the fur on your fingers. Smell it. Keep centered and experience these things with the intent to remember. This is good, very good. Now reach down and pick up a little rock. Feel your body bend. Smell the flowers. Feel the rock as you roll it in your fingers. Taste the rock. This was a most unusual experience. I could feel everything as though my whole body were performing the actions. I stayed easily in my center, and every experience was exciting, as, as though new. It was almost as if I were doing these actions and feeling these experiences for the very first time. And yet there was something oddly familiar in it all, something that didn't have to do with the physical. I could feel every muscle working as I bent over to get the rock. The smell of the cow was dirty, wet fur. The flowers were sweet. I rolled the little rock in my fingers. It had smooth and sharp sides. I looked down at it, and it was a little piece of quartz. I thought it was a peculiar request to have me taste it, but I did anyway. It tasted like salty dirt. Damana continued, "Walk with me up here. You will have to climb this gully. Come. Look at what is over the rise here." Again I followed him. He looked as if he had a glow about his body. Everything was more intense uh, in color, light. Even the dirt had a kind of glow to it. I felt the muscles in my arms and legs pulling my body up the gully. It was wonderful, the feeling of exercising them. I looked at everything, and all the little objects were nestled together like in a community, and they had interaction going, some sort of symbiosis. When I got to the ridge, I looked all around at the view and then at the plants and the rocks. I smelled them and touched them and listened. And then Damano had me walk back with him, holding his hand, observing and feeling everything along the way. "I want you to remember," he said, "all the things you perceive. Sit back down into your body. And I turned and saw myself sitting on the dirt. I could feel myself standing and sitting at the same time, seeing myself like seeing myself like that was a little disorienting. My awareness of death close by was sharpened. More than anything, I did not want to die, but I was not afraid of it either. I could feel clearly how she sharpened my awareness and appreciation of all things. I stepped over and sat down. Settle yourself inside your body. Feel it again. Adjust inside. It was like putting on an electrical body glove and reconnecting all the circuits. It took a moment to readjust. My body felt heavy and clumsy. I was still in my center, and I opened my eyes. Damano sat down next to me. Recall everything, recall every detail. I went through every sensation, observing the, everything that I could remember. Sometimes I remembered out of sequence or skipped whole sections. But with their questions, I was finally able to remember most of the experience. And then they had me physically retrace my steps. I couldn't believe how accurate my observations had been. There on the ground in front of me were the same rocks and patterns in the soil, the same little plants, even over the ridge of the gully. I was fascinated. How could this be? I turned to Damano. This is our nature, our heritage. He smiled his big, toothy grin at me. Can this be done without being in your center? I asked. He shook his head. Not really. There's no clarity in observing without the center. One's thoughts cloud and distort what is there. Remembering is difficult, if not impossible. The center is the key. The tree grows in the center. The gifts join at the center. That is Katasi. The job of the shaman is to bring Katasi to the world, bring balance. I nodded. I'm just blown away. I can hardly believe that I just did that. It's amazing. And I, I can't explain it any other way than to an astral projection or, I mean, spirit walking. It's really real. I really did it. I just can hardly believe it. They laughed. Gia agreed with me. Yes, it is pretty amazing, especially at first, but it will become more natural for you. I felt so successful and satisfied. Can we do it again? You bet. Damano raised his fist, striking the air. Let's go. Let's go right now. Go? I interrupted. Leave right now, but go on a spirit journey, he laughed. a real journey to a distant place, a shaman's journey to find knowledge. Really? I was a little intimidated. I wanted to try this rare opportunity, but this seemed like a rather large jump. Yes, Chia said softly. It is time. You're perfectly ready. Find your center. Trust yourself. Breathe deep. Get up against your rock again and relax. Breathe. Feel your body. She is sat down with her back to a big rock. She was just a few feet to my left. Demano sat facing me, just slightly off to my right. Close your eyes and feel your whole body. Just like before, I want you to rise up out of your body and stand up. When I stood up in my spirit body, Chia was standing to my left and Damano to my right. Take her hands, he continued. We will walk a few steps, and then we will step up and lift into the air. Keep your center. Observe everything. Remember everything. We will be with you on this journey. Follow the directions we give. We will be guiding you. We walked a few steps toward the cows and then lifted up into the air. They held on to my hands and stabilized me. We flew around over the fields several times. Then they let go of my hands and let me fly free. It was surreal. I felt just like I did when flying in a sleeping dream. The degree of freedom that I experienced was beyond anything I had ever imagined. I could even feel the wind on my body and the coolness of the air. I followed Damano's instructions and we headed south. We rose very high and began to travel at incredible speed. He directed me to turn my attention away from feeling the wind and the temperature while we were in the air and had me concentrate on the sensation of flying and the view of the land below. Within minutes, we were over Baja California and then across the little bay and over to central Mexico and south again. We traveled rapidly over Central America and the northern part of South America until we reached the southern region of Brazil. We came in much closer and circled above an immense area that looked like rolling plains of grass. We followed this south until we came to a series of abrupt, narrow canyons that cut into the plains. One of them seemed quite deep and long. We followed it very close to its rim for a number of miles. Then it turned sharply to the left and again to the right. As we came around the corner of the cliff, There on the east face was a ledge and a large cave entrance. We landed on that ledge. The sun was low enough in the west to be shining a short distance into the cave. I could hear birds of prey screeching high above us and smell grasses and wild herbs in the air. I was barefoot and I could feel the gravel under my feet. The air was hot, but not very humid, and there were no clouds in the sky. I could see a short distance down the canyon in either direction. In one spot, I could see the little river at the bottom. A wind came up. It felt special. I thought perhaps it was a keeper, like my friend back home. I suspected that she was being friendly and curious, extending her greetings and support. I looked at Damano and Shia. They had a glowing quality, just as Damano had earlier on our little walk. I looked down at my hands and legs, and they were also bright with a slight luminescence. Damano instructed me to enter the cave. He and Chia would be right behind me. He said that this cave was very special and had been used for centuries by shamans from all over to initiate their apprentices and to search for sacred knowledge, secret knowledge. Their teachers had brought them, and someday I would bring someone too. The sunlight lit the first 10 feet of the cave. The colors on the rock walls were vibrant rusts and ochres. There were paintings of stick figures, animals, and hands along one side. I wondered how long they had been there and who painted them. And then I came to a different kind of figure. It was a man with antler like projections out of the top of his head and a bodysuit or halo type of covering over his entire body. His eyes were clearly and accurately drawn, looking straight out at the viewer intensely. The other drawings were simple and they were ordinary. But this last figure was superb. I asked Damano what he was, what he meant. It is a painting of one of the many spirits that come here. This place is special because of the energy that is bent into it and all the spirits that collect here. I touched the painting and then moved on. The sun was getting lower in the sky and shining farther down into the cave, into the shafts. The gravel under my feet gave way to solid rock that was smooth in most places, and though water worn. Deep inside the cavern, it was completely dark, but I could occasionally see something shiny. I couldn't tell what it was. We kept on walking slowly as we moved through out of the light, and after a few yards, It became so dark that I had to touch the side of the cave in order to find my way, and the temperature was getting cooler. Finally, we reached a huge gallery. My eyes had adjusted to the dark, and I could just barely see indications that the walls and the ceiling extended quite far. There were things in the cave that were like obstacles and obstructions. As I moved carefully through the gallery, they occasionally caught light and glimmered for a moment. Domano told me to feel carefully through the entire room and then pick a spot to sit down in. He said that it was necessary for me to be in the gallery by myself, that this journey, this quest for knowledge, was mine alone. There was no telling what kind of knowledge would be shown to me. They would be waiting out on the ledge. I was free to explore the entire place, to feel and observe all that I could, and to take as much time as I needed. At some point, I would feel the need to sit in the spot that I had picked and observe very quietly. They each hugged me, and then they left me with a great room. I walked and felt my way around the whole space. The obstacles, I decided, must be stalactites and stalagmites. There were places on the floor and walls that were very sharp and hard. I tried to avoid walking on those, but that was tricky. This place felt strong, powerful. I was alone in the cave now, but it did not feel alone. The whole thing seemed to be alive, breathing, watching, moving. I suddenly thought I should sit down. I had forgotten to pick a spot, so I scanned the whole room quickly and decided on a location near a large stalactite and sat down. I put all my attention to observing and feeling the room. Attention grew. It felt as though many living beings were converging on the cavern. There were flickers of light. For a moment, I thought I heard singing. I sat still, breathing in the growing tension, feeling the songs of many, and then it happened. The light from the setting sun came perfectly down the cave and lit the entire gallery. It was a sight out of the dreams of fairy tales. The stalactites and stalagmites were huge, clear crystals. The light shot everywhere in every color of the rainbow. I think my breath must have stopped. It was like being in a room surrounded by thousands of huge, glistening diamonds. The back of my neck and head tingled. I heard steps behind me. I turned to see what was there. and the crystal I had been leaning on was glowing as though lit from within. A small man stepped forward from around the crystal. The beams of light and color shone all over him. His head was like a jaguar's, but his face was human. He smiled and came and sat down close to me. We looked at each other for a few moments, and then he said, "Welcome to our lodge. This is a place of power. Some things have the ability to either increase or decrease your energy. This place increases it. You have succeeded in getting here in the way of the shaman, and so we offer to share this with you." I gave a single nod of acceptance and gratitude and remained silent, waiting for him to speak again. When a person comes here, they come for the sake of the children, all the children, and all the generations to come of all species. With each generation through the past, one has come to learn to be a voice and guardian for nature, to provide this link for their people. Today, we ask many to come and learn. We wish to teach all people to speak with us for the sake of the children. The people have lost their trust and loyalty in life, a relationship with themselves and with all things greater than they could imagine awaits them on the horizon. Tell your people that we are coming. We await meeting in peace and joy in the name of those yet to come. The sunlight hit the cavern in just the right way to create dozens of direct reflections and spectral refractions from the sun straight into my eyes. All the crystals glowed. The light was so tremendous, I couldn't see anything else. And then the crystals began to resonate like a chorus of exquisite and strange sounds. The whole cave resonated and echoed. I felt as if the lights and sounds penetrated me until I also vibrated with them. And then the sun set, and everything was still and dark. I looked around, and the spirit man was gone. It felt that it was time for everyone to leave. I sat there for a few minutes longer and then started back down the cave. I felt very light on my feet, as though I could float away quite easily. I was aware of my center and my state of balance. I reached the opening, and Chia and Tamano were there sitting on the edge, waiting for me. Without a word, we lifted into the air and flew back to the little gully in the cow field back home. When I opened my eyes, the sun was still up a few hours from the horizon. We'd been in the field almost all day. It must have been getting close to dinner time, and my kids were probably home by now and wondering where I was. I looked at Demano to ask him about the journey. He smiled, put a finger to his lips. Do not talk on this just yet, even to yourself. Just remember as much as you can. Feel it. It's time to go. We'll be up to see you again soon. We hugged goodbye and walked in our separate directions. My centeredness lingered for hours. And even through the dishes and children screaming, I could still see the pervading eyes of the spirit man and hear the sounds of the cave clearly in my mind.
That was so beautiful, Kay. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. It's been a real honor and a real joy and pleasure and lots of fun.
I have a question. Have you ever been able to create a portal and step through?
I have never stepped through, but in that same time period, after they had told me about them and we had that journey, I was walking up one of the main paths in the campus through the cow pasture, and this huge portal just appeared. I was looking up and down and around. I was like, "Is there anybody else on the path? Are you seeing this?" And so it was. It was not like it was etherical. It was swirling and kind of like watery moving. It was huge. I was very tempted to try and thought, well, what should I pick? What kind of place do I know the signatures of well enough that I could make sure I'd be getting there? And I just was not sure enough that I knew those signatures well enough, not even with my apartment. So I touched it. And that was all. And I've seen others in nature. And I was out with a friend who was wanting to learn about Katashi and all this stuff. And we were hiking around. There was this big kind of a cliff going up, and a portal appeared about halfway up the cliff, very visible. She could see it clear as day. And it really scared her. And I've seen others at other times and places, but that's the only one with another person, except the Atticus.
Wow.
There's so many different kinds of portals that just are natural, goes to so many different types of places. And of course, there's uh, the portals that are uh, artificially constructed. both by humans and people from outer space. And there are very, very ancient constructed portals all over the earth. It's part of the reason we went to war with Iraq to get the portal. That one, at least.
Vicky.
When you first arrived at the cave, I think it was, Damana was saying that it was filled with all the energy that has been bent into it. What did he mean by bent into it?
Oh, just like it sounds, that shamans have purposefully guided the energy, sent the energy uh, through their bodies or from nature, bending it, aiming it to that place. And it's easy to stick because of all the crystals. The energy just travels back and forth through the crystals and round through the cave. And this cave goes on and on and on and on and has enormous crystals, caverns. So it's, yeah, fascinating place.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Beautiful questions. Do you have another, Vicky? Another question?
I thought I was putting my hand down.
Anybody else?
Have you ever thought of in real life trying to find that location or some of the other ones that they showed you?
Oh, yeah. Never had the money. I could just
Yeah.
travel like that. So, oh, well,
Okay.
yeah.
In some ways, it's not necessary.
Well, if you can journey, if you can spirit travel,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all yours. And the first time you have to be kind of guided there from wherever you're coming from. But if you want to go again, like you're a student and you want to go and talk to spirits and learn more about something, have them answer questions. When you go, you don't have to go through the flying process. You can just remember it, think it, feel it, and boom, you're there. That's portal travel.
That's cool. I had a feeling about that.
And it's safe when you're in your spirit. You're not going to be taking a chance to be, end up in the Pleiades or
Unless
some
that's where you're aiming.
yeah, unless that's it. Laura.
There was something
Oh.
in the chapter that I thought was interesting, and I can't remember what context used the word resonating in terms of what was all the things that were going on in there.
Yeah.
And I've been finding myself having that happen in all the time with especially when I'm in a national, that it's so I can't, there's not the right words for it. It's like a multi-dimensional, multi-elemental resonating.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And resonating means you're vibrating with it and reaching some kind of harmonic or maybe the exact same sound or pattern. And so You're getting synchronized, you're resonating with it. So the light was resonating with all the crystals, and they were lighting up and throwing the light every which direction. And they were creating sound. They were resonating so strongly that it made an audible sound. Extraordinary. It wasn't a single sound. It was symphonies. Symphonies of unusual, not the kind of sounds we usually hear here on Earth in our regular lives.
Celestial.
It was celestial for sure. Yeah. I've heard other things resonate and sing. I've heard trees resonate and sing. And sometimes rocks, lots of other different things. They're all alive. And they all have these capacities to some degree. Laura?
I find it ironic that about some of my experience with advanced studies this last weekend and this conversation about portholes and slipping through it. The timing is amazing. But I've always been curious, the Crystal Cave, because his quest for you, to share it and bring other people there, that it was time to tell your people, which you've done a good job of, to come. But are there other practices currently using that space outside of us?
There are local indigenous people have used that cave for initiations for who knows how long. As long as there's been people, I guess. Because the crystals are so magnetic. They're so attractive. And they draw people in. Even when they don't know they're there, they're drawn to the place and go find and explore and discover. So
I think it's
figure
interesting.
there's still people who do. Feels like it. Peter?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the cave had rock art, that the paintings at the entrance, but also the huge amount of, we'll call it, resonating crystals on the inside. I mean, it's a combination of sort of a human view of things and then the actual power of it. So, and I thought that was powerful. I also thought is with all objects like rocks or trees or whatever, our resonating with it is another point of connection. We can talk to them, but we can also, in a profound way, communicate by resonating with them.
Yes. When we go song to song for real with someone, heart to heart, song to song, you are matching frequencies with each other, sharing your songs, the symphonies, literally, the vibrations. And in order to really connect, part of you has to be vibrating with what you want to connect with. Yeah, and they have to be vibrating with you. So that you are correct. That is an extreme communication. And if you can pay attention, you're going to learn a whole lot when those things happen. Good point. Thank you. Meredith.
I'm fascinated to know if your journeys to the crystal cave after that, if it was always your friend with the jaguar head or if it's been different.
Sometimes it's been different, but we're talking about quite a few years here
Mhm.
and quite a few journeys.
Of course.
And there's so many different galleries. This is the one big one that is facing the sunset. And so at the right time of the year, the sun is going to be full blast down the cave entrance into the gallery. Boy, does it light up. Just, wow, that resonating is, it never gets old, never gets old. And it is an initiation. It's something in this tradition that there has to be, but both Egyptian and the Peruvian, there has to be a ceremony that can help you find crystals that are big enough and powerful enough in a place that's big enough and powerful enough to, it connects with this spot in the back of your skull. You have this little lump and a dip in the back of the skull, lowest part. The lump sticks out and it's a little dip going in. Well, inside there in your brain, there's an area of your brain. I don't know what the area is, but it's like a crystal cave. And in the Egyptian tradition, we journey inside the body to that crystal cave. And that's where that initiation takes place. So it opens it up, it turns it on, gets like all the gears humming. So it's part of the raising of the Kundalini and the third eye opening and that transformation to be able to perceive easier. But in order to have that be effective, you have to start getting rid of your mind babble and your beliefs and because that clogs all the channels. It closes the door, clogs the channels. You'll never perceive anything as long as you got the muggle bubble babble and beliefs and garbage going on inside your head. The other galleries are also quite extraordinary. And in your spirit body, you can go to all of them, even the ones you can't physically crawl to unless you drill a hole. And some of them are so huge, they just dwarf the people. They just, you're this big, and it's as big as a house. One crystal is as big as this house.
Thank you.
I happen to love rocks and crystals. I mean, I have a serious love affair going on with all rocks of all forms. And for me to go to one of those crystals and just lay down on it, be hugging it. I'm dwarfed completely. But the feeling of these entities and the spirits of those places and who will come to meet you and maybe guide you, show you around, or take you some special place. It's well worth going back. Like Delano and Chia say, repetition's good. It's really good. Barbara? You're muted. Yeah.
I've been curious about the teleportation, in my mind, and I've wondered. I think it would be amazingly exciting to be able to do something like that. But are those kind of spirit abilities ever going to be useful in the actual when it gets to the phase of the lot of transforming of garbage, changing taking away the asphalt, things like that, or carrying something somewhere else. Anyway.
Yes. Yes. And when those things start rolling around, I think we're going to be seeing some alien visitors who are willing to help us with that. It's Dr. Stephen or Richard Greer, Dr. Greer, whoever he is, he's been doing this huge amount of study about aliens for real, and our government's secret projects and all that kind of stuff. And he's found out that, just huge amounts of information. Has a lot of whistleblowers that have been talking to him through all the years. And he says that these whistleblowers say that we have discovered how to make all these things via the help of the aliens. Either we hijacked it and copied it from the alien crashes, or they gave it some of these things to us on purpose. And some of that stuff is like a liquid that has no color, it has no smell, it does not poison anything, but it makes all the plastic in the ocean disappear. It just chemically undoes it, makes it harmless, and it doesn't take much time at all. Time to spread it. That's all. And there's some other kind of technology that, with just a few minutes of running this technology, an entire cave full of radioactive garbage is no longer radioactive. It takes away the radioactivity. But of course, the industrial military complex keeps all that stuff secret. They have energy devices that, a box this big can hold a device that would power your entire house and your car and probably your business too, if you wanted to carry it with you, forever, without having to use any fuel. It only costs you the materials that make up the device and people's time to put it together. And it's not a very complex piece of machinery. It doesn't take complex materials or rare materials, or it's nothing poisonous about it or anything like that. But we could each have one in our house and our car and in the business, and it would change an awful lot of stuff. which I mean, you could do that, just make it available planet wide. They're there. The military uses them. There's all kinds of technology like that they've been developing through the years, but they're hoarding it, keeping it secret, not letting anybody find out about it. But people are starting to find out about it, and they're just going to get pissed in mass, and things will change. Yeah, those things are not far away. And they're not far away from us being able to make them part of our daily lives. Anti-gravity machines. The government has a lot of them. And they could be small, large. They're not as hard or complex or complicated as we would think them to be. It's all different physics. Because our physics is not accurate. So, like the ancients say, question everything. Question everything, and dream and wonder how all these wondrous things could possibly be. How maybe you could make them. Maybe you could meet people that could make them and convince them to do it. But it'll be coming out to the whole world. It's going to change all those things. No more need for petroleum products. Even making plastic out of petroleum. It doesn't have to be the way it has been, and our constant creation of what just turns into garbage and makes garbage pits and mountains in the middle of the ocean. It's all going to change. It won't be this way in the new world, and we have to dream that dream. We have to see it, we have to feel it, we have to believe, we have to do the gratitude ceremony, where that's when you feel it and think it as though it actually exists, and you give thanks that it exists, and you feel the thanks, you feel this thing that you want, giving thanks. And that's talking to the universe in a language the universe understands, and it will create it rather rapidly. If you're careless with your thoughts and you're whining around and bitching and grouching about this problem and that problem, or this ache in my body and this one and that one, you're telling the universe, I heard a lot, and the universe understands that to be, you want more of it. You're hurting a lot, you want more of it, so it makes more of it for you. We create our own realities. And we create this bigger, full earth reality and culture in joint with each other. That's why we need to change the way people think. We have to get them to wake up enough to think differently. Get rid of the fog and the babble and the programming and the blind beliefs. Throw the blind beliefs out. Don't go pick them up again. Did you have something else, Barbara?
No, thank you very much.
Mm. You all have such beautiful questions. Linda.
Thank you. This is beautiful. So your the story about the dragonfly landing on Damano's hand, and then he came to listen to the story, and that is his teachers. Can you expand more on that? There was just a little bit of a blur, but it is it the connectedness of us all, that no matter who is teaching, where we were teaching, where we were being taught from, that it's all coming through, and it's the lineage. Is it the message? Can you give more with that?
In the teachings, it's said that we can be born as anything. A tree, a rock, a bug, a buffalo, an elephant, a human, this human kind of human, that kind of human. You know, we could be born as anything we want, or something on another planet. Yeah. And we're choosing this. We choose this. But there's also these traditions of somebody who has what the Indians would call medicine, what the ancients would call medicine. They have some magic, they have some power and knowledge. And either when they're alive, that's harder, but much easier when they're dead, they've passed into, you know, what we term as the afterlife. And if they wanted to come back and say hi and be visible, they can take any form they want. And in native tradition, they have very often taken very specific forms. Like in some of the Native American tribes, somebody who has just died, and everybody is still gathered around, and they've got the funeral fires and maybe sweat lodges and the big feasting ceremonies. They believe that at that time, especially, they will come back to say goodbye to everybody as a dragonfly, or sometimes a hummingbird, but dragonfly is probably more common. And they'll fly through the fire. They'll fly right through the fire, not be hurt. And they'll do things like circle around. They might land on somebody specifically or hover over them, or things that, you know, are just a little spooky. They're just not quite normal. And the belief of that is that's that person. And they came to say hi. And in that case of a funeral, hi and goodbye. And I love you. And I'm fine. And you can come visit me in spirit, or certainly when you're dead, you know, you'll find me here. The teachings say that the realm of the dead it's another dimension. This is 3D time space is a dimension. The realm of the dead is another dimension that does not have any matter. It's totally nonlinear levels of being. And it's very close to us. In some ways, it's intersecting. And that's why we can see some things from worlds like that we shouldn't be seeing most of the time, but they're just there for a bit and whoops. And if you are trained in that kind of spirit journeying or distance viewing, you could view the land of the dead and see or visit people that you know that have passed on, relatives, ancestors. And you can learn from them.
So is that a symbol of dragonflies in general? Like, or is it to the teachings, or is it like, does it come through and have those same symbols and meanings like in our everyday? Because they've been visiting me a lot lately.
Ah, they're very uh, mystical. Anything that would be attributed to them would be a lot of mystical types of things. Certain tribes have different beliefs about them or somebody taking their form and showing up. But I can't say that all tribes and ancient people believe the exact same thing about dragonflies. But they do tend to have a mystical bent for most people.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have brilliant questions. Does anybody else have any kind of comment or questions? Honey.
Very good. Great. So coming back to the portals or teletransportation, so you say there are natural portals and constructed portals. So when a shaman wants to do teleportation, would he or she create their own portal, or would they use a portal that already exists?
Either one. If they're trained to use their own, not all of them are trained to use their own. That's a lot. That's a knowledge set that has been lost quite a bit across the planet. Not that many people know about how to do that for real. They know that it existed. They may have seen their great grandpa, disappear and reappear and stuff like that. But it's unfortunately a lot of those spiritual traditions in these different cultures has been getting thinner and thinner, and they've been losing pieces of that knowledge.
So, but in the past, they have been used quite a bit. Is that what you're saying?
Oh
Yeah.
yes, oh yes, yeah,
So, and even those constructed portals.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there are constructed portals that go to specifically to just one place on Earth, and wherever you put the portal, it ends up on that one place on Earth. And
then,
there's other portals, that constructed portals, that go to any of the portals that are all over the Earth. There used to be a lot of them, and you go in one, you could come out any one that you wanted to, and there are ways to control that. And with thought, if you're telepathically strong enough, or with technology, and you direct where you want to go. The ones
so,
you create yourself could go anywhere, absolutely anywhere, as long as you know the destination extremely well.
so, but with those other ones, people know typically where those portals go, like the constructed or the natural portals. So people who they know where they end up to be and can come back.
Yeah, it's designed, it's constructed that way
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't end up in some other weird place
So,
accidentally.
so it would be best then to start out with using a portal like that that's already exist.
That would be convenient. It wouldn't teach you how to make your own portal.
Okay.
It might teach you the feeling of it.
Yeah.
You might learn something from the feeling of the experience, but it couldn't teach you the whole thing.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
Damano and she has said, that is the hardest of all the dreaming, uh, we might say, technologies, but it has nothing to do with anything artificial. It's totally controlled and created by you, by a human.
Mhm. Yeah.
Or if they're an off-worlder, by a sentient of some sort with that kind of power and knowledge. We have the ability in us to do these things. This is our heritage. And we've lost it. We've we're
So,
just we're a child species. We're considered children. Children that have gone amuck in the sandbox.
so the difference then between like what you just described, the journey, the spirit journey where you also go out of your body and teleportation, is quite a different thing. Because you, in both cases, you actually go there, but in one case, you leave your body behind, and in
Correct.
the other one, you take your body actually with you. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. It's all about the consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so cool.
When we realize that everything is alive and has consciousness and it thinks and feels and can express, it makes a huge difference how we decide to interact with it on any scale, whether it's spiritual or technological. We we understand the ramifications a lot more readily and easily. Right now, as a child species, most of us don't understand the ramifications of what we are doing, even with our garbage and making things for profit. Make more, make more, make more, buy more, buy more, buy more, use more. Oh, that's no good anymore. It's got a scratch, throw it away.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of us. And with a lot of us making, and using, and throwing away, and throwing away, and throwing away, we have to stop doing that. We have to learn why we're doing that. Why do we believe that that is okay or needed? We have so many beliefs about everything in our world, and we're so concrete about it. We're like, this is the truth. This is the way it is. But it isn't. Most everything that we've been trained to believe is not true. It's not accurate. Some things, a few, may have a few little things that are true in them, but the whole idea, no, we twist everything, twisted it out of the natural context and what it naturally is. We've twisted the goals, purpose of life into something you can't even recognize anymore. And we're changing that. Kate.
Hang on a second, kid. Just hang on, okay?
Thank you. Thank
All right.
you.
Okay.
Had a little
Okay to
had a little
go.
fashion accident. Kate.
Can a portal take you to a different time?
Yes. Yes.
So you can specify the time you want to go to as well as the place.
Yes. And that's part of the equation of how to create a portal, whether it's just by a sentient being or if it is something technologically constructed. The concept of time has to be part of that, whatever, I don't know what they would call it, a mechanism, the procedure, the event, yeah.
Parameters.
The parameters. Very good.
Good,
Yep.
thank you.
But there's another way to see things in time in the space that you're in. Because time is not, one of these things, time is not what we think it is. We've been lied to for a long time about what time is. And things that are in the past and things that are in the future is kind of a different story because there's different possibilities of the future, and we're leading ourselves into one kind of a path, and we might want to lead into another one, or we might be in the crossroads of that. So the future is a whole different topic to talk about, but you could be in a place, and we have these exercises. It's a ceremony of sorts, but you'd also call it a practice, an exercise, where we go to a certain place. We could be in a building, or you could be outside, and you look through time, and you pick 50 years, 50 years, 50 years, or maybe you want to go in 100 years in a jump, go back in time and see what was happening in the spot that you're standing in. And you could do that. And it's more of a journey than anything I would call a portal action. It's not a portal action. I think I wrote about it in, I think it's in Sacred Link. I was out in the UCSC, the college campus in Santa Cruz, in the grass fields, and I was doing something really fun. I was journeying or something now, and I was out there by myself. Not that that's a dangerous thing in itself, but the grass goes up in a big hill, and I was in that area, and it was getting to be sunset, and I needed to get home to the kids, and I was kind of on my way, but the layers just appeared. When you're first starting, sometimes you don't have a whole lot of control over these things, and these things just appear in front of you or around you. And what I was seeing uphill from me, just a few feet, was this really big female mountain lion, which used to live in that area. And I could hear her breathe. I could see her eyes clearly. I mean, we were pretty close, and I think we moved a little bit closer. I don't really remember if she stepped or I stepped. I think it must have been her. I think I was too afraid to move. But I could smell her. I could feel her breath. And when I realized I was smelling her, that really jerked my instincts of it's time to get out of there. You're standing about, a foot or two away from this really dangerous animal. And I could see that it could see me.
Mm.
It was really confused at first, but looking over me and sniffing. And it could smell me. She could smell me. And I didn't know if this meant I was in danger. Can she reach through this time layer and, do me damage? I was very afraid and very frozen for I don't know how long. But at some point, we decided to give up on our exploration of each other and go in different directions. And then I took off, towards the apartment, towards civilization with other people. But that can happen. Perceiving through time layers. I've had it happen spontaneously in other ways. I've been, cooking for the family, some big Thanksgiving dinner or something like that. And being in the kitchen, starting to prepare the food, getting the pots out and getting the different things to chop up. And all of a sudden, the smell comes in and just takes over the whole room. The smell of some really great food, or maybe it was the food I was gonna fix, but then it disappears pretty quick. But that's touching through time layers. I think I probably had been thinking about all these different big fancy dinners that I had ever made for family or professionally, and the smells that they make. The smells that were there was not anything that I was about to cook or cutting up or anything. So those things happen.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. And thank you all. Laura, I know I'm probably way past your usual time.
Yeah, I usually would cut you off, but it's you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we only have 3 more chapters left of the Reluctant Shaman. And then of course we start your new book. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that they're more than welcome to join the book club. It's a truly amazing community, a lot of sharing. And we have mentorship this weekend, so we can stop now and ask questions this weekend. Thank you so much. I have so much gratitude. Thank you, Kay.
Me too. Thank you all. It's been just such beautiful fun. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Love y'all.
Love you.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.